Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Bateman.
Here.
Mr. Blair.
Here.
Mr. Hart.
Here.
Mr. Ori.
Here.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Here.
Mr. Ping.
Here.
Welcome, everyone. With us tonight, we have our Director of Finance, Mark Medler, Assistant City Manager, Corey Wright, Clerk of Council, Mr. Clark, City Manager, Dave Kennedy, City Solicitor, Joe Braun, Chief of Police, Michael Gabrielson, Little Miami River Chamber Alliance President, Cece Collins, and former council members, Todd Osborne and Pat Mays. So, welcome, everyone. First item is review and approval of minutes from the August 15th, 2023 meeting. Are there any additions, changes? Can we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Mr. Ori.
I was absent, so abstain.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Ping.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, next we have a public hearing. Discuss Chapter 732, transient businesses and vendors, mobile food vendors and food trucks. We have a motion to open the public hearing.
Move to open the public hearing to discuss Chapter 732, transient business and vendors, mobile food vendors, and food trucks.
Is there a second? Thank you.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Blair.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Mr. Ori.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Ping.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
No one signed up to speak in the public hearing. Can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Mr. Ori.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Ping.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Mr. Kennedy?
So one of the, as the summer comes to an end and we move into September, what we traditionally do is we bring forth to you a submission of projects that we're going through for the Ohio Public Works Commission's State Capital Improvement Program. This is an annual process where we submit typically 2 to 3 different projects, a couple of which we likely will not be funded, but we gain quite a bit of knowledge. As you know, Cindy, who submits these, our city engineer, sits on the committee. She gets to learn about the different scoring. So just real quickly, so we applied through District 2, which is actually one of the smallest districts in the state, but probably the most competitive. So when these are submitted, we're going against every Hamilton County community. And it's an extremely competitive process. You either go for SCIP, which is State Capital Improvement, or LTIP, which is the Local Transportation Improvement. Note, LTIP really only funds road program. SCIP does 0% loans and grants. But it's always important, and it's certainly important for what we're submitting, is that enterprise projects, which are water, sewer, stormwater, any project, any infrastructure that the city receives a user fee for is called an enterprise fund. They do not fund those. So when we have a project that is includes a component that is an enterprise fund, which for us would be a water or a stormwater project, we typically would go after low interest loan money for the water portion and then try to get the non-water portion. No water project ever is really just a water project. It's almost always storm, sidewalk, road. You're ripping everything up. So with that, and that is relative. So those applications for SCIP and LTIP are due September 29th. So we go through these pretty detailed. So we're doing we want to submit 3 projects this year. One is Cherokee Water Main Project. That's our number 1 priority. Second one is the East Loveland Phase 2 project. And third priority is State Route 48 and Williams Storm Drain Project. Real quickly, I just wanted to go through the components of these. The Cherokee Water Main Project, it really has 2 parts. Ever since the Main Street water main was done in 21/22, this immediately became the city's number 1 water project. It's quite frankly, it's just a mess. up there. So this was the number one project to want it to sit. So the project includes all in Cherokee, all the way from West Loveland to Bellwood, and then on West Main from Cherokee to Highlands. And it's pretty noteworthy. Not only do these things have continual leaks, the Cherokee section, actually, we can't even do the water valve replacement program up there because it runs parallel with a gas main, and it's very difficult. The section on West Main, for those that are around in 2018, remember the bit of a fiasco with Westover Village Apartments, where they were out for 5, 6 something days and had no fire protection because they were ran off of a private main. It was a mess, really, quite frankly, if not for Chief Huber being able to get creative with some fire hydrants and running water into the building. These people would have went on for weeks without water, and never having that whole area will be eliminated with this project because there'll be a new 8-inch main. All there is right now on West Main is a run that goes down Highland. There was just a 2-inch service main. That's all there's been up there. That 2-inch service main will now be looped with everything else and will be an 8-inch water main. And for the first time ever, West Main will finally have actual fire hydrants. There's been no fire hydrants up there. To say the least, this is a pretty important, very, very important project for the city. So funding this particular project, it's basically a $2 million project. The city would pay $190,000. We would enter into an agreement to begin the engineering if we are funded, and we feel fairly confident about this project. The project's $955,200 water portion and $955,200 non-water. So stormwater, sidewalks, road is non-water. The grant that the city would go after is the non-water portions of the project. So the city would come up with $955,200 for the water portion. So knowing that this was up and running, and knowing that the city doesn't want to take on water debt anymore, we're currently right around $683,000 we pay an annual debt service for our water. And since City Council enacted the WMR fee back in January, where we've been able to get $7.50 per unit, the city submitted for a you know how we talk about state capital budget funding? The city submitted for congressional allocation through Congressman Landsman, and we were ranked with his projects. That funding has now actually been allocated through the it's actually called the it's the House proportionate. Is once the bill is signed, the allocation to the city will be of $745,000 will be made available at fiscal year 2024. And I tell you what, and the mayor and I were talking. We can't thank Mr. Landsman enough. Him and his staff really went to battle for this, and to fund a project up here in Loveland, I think they said a lot. It goes along with everything else the city's been doing in the Heights. So we're very hopeful. I would say we're pretty confident that we will ultimately get funded, which means the city will only have to take $210,200 out of their WMR fee, which is doing very well and certainly can cover that amount. So that is our number one project largely because we're putting in such a local match. We're bringing in other funding. So those are the things that they like. They like knowing that their money is being earmarked with other money, is being leveraged, is the right word, with other funding sources to make it more viable. That's one of the reasons we think it. And to be honest with you, the Heights is classified as a low moderate income area. That has made it also eligible for CDBG funding. That's how we've been funding the Incertivals. So we're really excited about this project. This will be the largest water main project the city has ever completed without taking on any debt whatsoever. So again, I really want to thank Mr. Landsman on this. So the second phase project is East Loveland Phase 2. This is simply a continuation of what we're just getting ready. Corey and I had a pre-construction meeting for the bridge project. If you recall, the city is getting ready for a major project, replacing the bridge. MSD is replacing the sewer main. The city's putting in sidewalk, stormwater, all the way up past 5th Street. The goal here is that there's 2 other phases of that project that will get us all the way up to the Claremont County Park entrance on O'Bannon, which really between the Cardinal Conservancy and the Claremont County Park District, most of what they're going to do is going to front on O'Bannon. So this will allow a sidewalk connection, pedestrian connection all the way up there, connecting people on Farr, connecting people on Bears Creek, connecting people on all of 5th Street. If you think about it, you'll be able to go from the bike trail all the way up to Claremont County Park. This project would include, again, the city always pays for engineering design that's not funded in grants. And then we would apply for $1,159,600 in grant money, $128,900 in local match. This project would be more viable if MSD could jump in with us. That just adds that partner. Barring that, this may be a project that gets resubmitted next year with MSD. They can't move fast enough to commit to be a part of that project. But either way, we are including it in the 24 budget, and in the 25 budget, Corey and I already have allotted East Loveland Phase 3, which will take you all the way up to the Grail, up to almost the Children's Meeting House, all the way to the entry. The last project we have is State Route 48 and Williams Stormwater. So if you can imagine where East Loveland, where Broadway and everything comes together at Williams, there is a very undersized water storm pipe there that actually causes backups all the way into McCoy Park. And residents who are on Oak, residents who back Oak, there's just trying to dump this bottle of water into a straw. So the project includes 700 linear feet, ripping out 12-inch storm pipe and replacing it with 30-inch. It's very basic. And then from there, it'll tie into a much larger stormwater system. Don't really know how this one particularly would be, how it will score. But again, it really doesn't have a whole lot of local. We'd only be putting in $41,000 in cash. One last thing, whenever there's multiple functions, the engineering, for example, back to the Cherokee, you saw that 190,000 engine. That's not all out of the water. That would be the same proportion that the project is funded, the same proportion that you will pay for the engineering. So water, stormwater, and sewer. So this resolution allows us to submit the application and for me to sign any corresponding paperwork. Oh, you don't want to be held up by missing a council meeting. You're just basically giving me the authority that if I'm able to enter into any agreements that may be appropriate for financial funding sources. So if I need to make an agreement real quick because MSD is interested, you're giving me that authorization. We don't want to lose out on funding because of that. So I tried to go fast, but those are pretty important projects. And that's really all I had, Mayor.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Mr. Hart?
I was just going to ask Mr. Medler if everything kind of comes together and all the stars align, are we able to handle the local match share of all these and feel pretty good about those budgetary wise?
Absolutely. As Mr. Kennedy said, the WMR fund is doing very well, and by the time the projects are rolling, it should be enough funding available.
Mr. Ori?
Mr. Kennedy, the Cherokee Drive West Main replacement is those pipes up there are what, 70, 75 years old?
They were put in the beginning in 1955 and some into the 70s, but most of them have been in place since 1955. They're not ductile iron, and Cindy cited the number of leaks that they have. The problem up there is that you can't isolate it. So one leak, because there's no loop, there's no redundancy, so everyone's out. So that's the beauty of this, is not only are you going to have fire hydrants where you don't have fire hydrants, but you're going to have loops and valves, so leaks still happen, but you can isolate them. So
Thank you. You answered my question before I even.
A little wordy. Yeah, sorry. It's a big deal.
No, you're good.
It's a big project.
That's what I wanted to know.
Mr. Bateman?
Dave, have any of these projects been submitted for grant funding before? So
It's all fresh.
This will be the first opportunity.
Yeah, this will be. Well, technically, we did submit Cherokee for grant funding through Congressman Mr. Landsman's office, which was a bit of a process, and we had but
Didn't we do it one time before though?
Oh yes, I'm sorry. We did submit Cherokee once before. It didn't score very well, and we would have had to take the vast majority of that would have had to been city debt because we didn't have the WMR fee at the time. So all of that 955 would have been another loan. So maybe it was actually a bit of a blessing.
So, okay, so as you said, the conditions have changed in this instance, so there's a likelihood.
And to be honest with you, at the time, we were extremely focused on getting Main Street completed because that was also causing one of the worst roads in the city to not get paved.
And that was priority ranked higher. In this
Yeah,
instance.
yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, I just commend you and Cindy and staff for bringing this forward. We've gotten some really major infrastructure projects completed in the last several years using these funds, and this is one you've been talking about since that last one.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
hopefully the stars will all align, at least for this particular project.
Yeah, Cindy was able to bring in $1 million from last year because of East Loveland and the Harrison project.
All right, yes,
Just a quick question.
Blair.
And you answered it once before. Either one of you did. How rough and dirty? How much money in the last year or 2 years has Cindy gotten for this, for all of the projects that we do?
Well, she focuses, we all do a little bit of share. So Cindy focuses on OPWC because she's so darn good at it. So she typically brings in anywhere from 300,000 to 400,000 up to about $1 million a year. And I don't know that there's been a year, I've been here since 2014. Can't remember a year that she didn't get anything. If you recall, she's also so well connected she can pivot. So if you recall when we did Miami View, which was a mess, the whole darn sewer main was collapsing at the end of Miami View. Thanks to her connections, they offered us a 0-interest loan and we were able to get that project connected. If you just average about 300,000 to 400,000 a year.
So it's well over $3 million.
Yes.
All right.
Any other comments, questions? Read the resolution, please.
Resolution authorizing the city engineer to prepare and submit application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission, state capital improvement and or local transportation improvement programs, and to execute contracts as required.
Any comment on the legislation? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ori,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps,
Yes.
Mr. Ping,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Hart. Resolution 90 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
You're right.
Thank you, Mayor. So we have the first, tonight, we have the first reading of an ordinance to adopt amendments to Chapter 732. And I'll try to be brief. I know council's had about a month to look at it and all of that. But really the genesis of this was the planning and zoning amendments to deal with food trucks on private property and bring Chapter 732 into line with so that they didn't work against each other. So with that, after the planning and zoning code amendments were adopted by council, we set to work with the Law and Ordinance Committee, going through 732 kind of ad nauseum, no pun intended, to make sure that we dovetailed that. And really, what does it do? So it's establishing reasonable time, manner, and place restrictions, clarifying background stuff, clarifying the applicability, because the food truck regulations for the planning and zoning code are regulating private property. And so this really is geared more towards special events, activities in the right of way, things like that. And so we tackled the application process. It's administrative. We tackled the appeals process. That's streamlined. Law and Ordinance really dug into this and went through it. And I think they did a really good job sort of working through what was sort of a nebulous code and getting something that's workable and that we can administer practically on a day-to-day basis. So, without belaboring all of what is in there, just some high points, tried to mirror some of the regulatory time, manner, and place restrictions on private property in here and this, because those were agreeable to, restrictions in that. And just some placement, some common sense placement rules, like don't block fire lanes, don't block handicap stalls, just things like that. So with that, I really want to thank Law and Ordinance for their efforts here. It's been great working with them. Not only on the lighting ordinance, which was a great discussion and great process. This has also been great working with them, and I think they do a great job. So, with that, staff is recommending that City Council adopt the requested ordinance as recommended for adoption by the Law and Ordinance Committee, and amending Chapter 732 as presented to City Council following 2 separate readings.
Thank you. Vice Mayor, as the Chair of Law and Ordinance, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I thank you for the kind words, Mr. Wright, but I guess I would just observe that we did have somewhat of a spirited conversation within the committee, especially as it related to, I think we recognized the obligation is a little higher to regulate applications and scrutinize those that want to apply for the right to operate a food truck, because again, we're public property. We have an obligation to ensure the public's kept safe from bad actors, and so that was part of the difference between what planning and zoning came up with and what we kind of supplemented it with. But I think in the long run it will provide adequate protection to the public for these vendors.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments or questions? Mr. Bateman, did you want to add anything from planning and zoning viewpoint?
Well, I think that's, I would just say it's good to see that they are working in harmony to, go towards the spirit of maybe the intent of the original initiative. It's supposed to sort of clean up and codify a little bit more what the community and what the city defined and saw as appropriate for food trucks. And so, at the end of the day, the community spoke. They like food trucks, so we had to create something that was flexible but also structured. So it was a good exercise in kind of the give and take of municipal government. So I think kudos to the volunteer committees that helped shape this change and create a better policy and more clear for the future.
Thank you. Anybody have any further comment or questions? I'll just echo thanks to planning and zoning and to Law and Ordinance, and certainly Mr. Wright spent a lot of time working on this as well. So thank you to everyone for your efforts in bringing this forward. You can go ahead this is just a first reading. Go ahead and read the ordinance.
Ordinance amending Chapter 732 of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Loveland, Ohio, entitled Transient Businesses and Vendors, Mobile Food Vendors, and Food Trucks.
Thank you. Mr. Medler?
Thank you, Mayor. We just have the 2 standard utility assessment ordinances for the quarter, one for Hamilton, one for Warren. And as usual, we're asking these be passed as an emergency.
All right. Anybody have any comments or questions on either of these ordinances? All right, read the first ordinance, please.
Ordinance assessing liens for unpaid utility bills on property in Hamilton County owed to the City of Loveland and declaring an emergency.
Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Ordinance 91 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Read the next ordinance, please.
Ordinance assessing liens for unpaid utility bills on property in Warren County owed to the City of Loveland and declaring an emergency.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Ordinance 92 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
All right. Is this the homecoming? Is that you or either one's Clark?
We were contacted by the Loveland City Schools. Would like to have their homecoming dance on the football field in Boyke Park. They had it there last year and it worked out really well for them. So they'd like to have that dance again there this year on September 23rd. And they've asked that City Council waive the $150 special event application.
Anyone have any comments or questions? All right, we need a motion then to waive the $150 special event application fee for the 2023 Loveland High School homecoming dance.
So moved.
Second.
All right, call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Blair?
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Abstaining with some more employment.
Mr. Ori,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps,
Yes.
Mr. Ping.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
There are various committee minutes and reports. Anybody have any comments on those? Under City Council reports, upcoming events, Voodoo Child will be performing blues, soul, rock, and country western music in Nisbet Park Gazebo this Saturday, September 2nd from 1 to 3 p.m. Our offices will be closed on Monday, September 4th for Labor Day. Linus Tate will perform the last concert of the season in Nisbet Park on Sunday, September 10th at 6 p.m. For information about any other community events, visit www.loveandlifeloveland.com, and you can find a link to that on our website as well. Any other council reports? About a motion to adjourn? Anyone?
Move to adjourn.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Blair,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Ori,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps,
Yes.
Mr. Ping,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.